Gospel.
A lot of people have been inspired by your journeys altogether. What advice would you give to Christians looking forward to getting married one day? Because you are all married. What would you give?
I challenge them. Like for those of you that think you want to get married, really think long and hard about what marriage is. Marriage was not established by man. Marriage is not just the wedding bells with the white dress and a suit. Wedding or marriage is something that has been established by God, and He has a purpose for marriage. You read through Ephesians 5, and you see the call that He has for men in marriage, and then the response that He has for women in marriage is not something to be taken lightly. It's something that honors God, and it's a reflection of a greater revelation that we experience as the bride of Christ. And I think if we look at it with that perspective, then we'll approach it more cautiously, and then with more reverence and with more a fueled motivation to want to please God if we actually love God. So for those of you that are believers, before you think about trying to, I just don't want someone to put a ring on it. Like, if you really understand the responsibility and the weight that God is calling you towards in this marriage thing, then you won't be just having your mind on Instagram pictures and a dope wedding dress, but it'll really be on how can I serve this man, and for a man, how can I give my life up for my wife as Christ did for the church. Yeah. That's one of the first things I would say.
Fantastic.
And I'll say, just to echo what my brother said, staying in love is not the same thing as staying in marriage, but it's a covenant. It's a binding agreement between two people that they made before God, and that doesn't mean love shouldn't be in marriage, or you shouldn't strive to be in love with one another. But I think a lot of times people think that love and marriage is merely based on this emotion, but no, it's based on a covenant between God and you, and that we should honor that, and we should honor. We're going into a marriage knowing that I'm going into this marriage with my heart fixed on honoring and serving this person better than myself, And I think that if you do that, I think that everything kind of falls on that, because marriage is supposed to be a picture of the gospel, a God, Christ, who came to this earth to give Himself up for His church, and He did that selflessly. He didn't do that with any expectations of getting love back. He just did it for us while we were yet sinners. Christ died for us. So I think in marriage, it has to mimic that, and it has to mirror that. We have to be ready to sacrifice and give ourselves up for our spouses.
Yeah, and I'd like to just quickly speak to the singles in the sense of who dangerously have their heart set on marriage and are sure that they are going to get married. I would just say, hold all your desires loosely. And don't think that marriage is a better place than singleness. I think that we value one over the other, and I don't believe that God does. And I would say do your best to get to the point to whatever God's will is for you, that you're able to be content. And contentment always doesn't necessarily mean, I'm happy, but you learn to get to that point because you believe that God has not reserved anything but His best for you. And that this is a short time frame that we're here on this earth. And once we get married, it's kind of, once we get to heaven, it's going to be like, hey, peace out. Thank you for helping me get here. So, but I think that it's just sometimes we esteem it so much for more than what it truly is. And I would just encourage you, if you are single, I would encourage you to really not hold so tightly to that. Have your desires. Don't let your desires supersede the will of God for your life. And don't be upset or think that God doesn't love you should He not grant you marriage in this earthly time frame. Glorify God with everything that you have and everything that's within you, and let that be the focus.
Wow.
My.
Wow, that's a word. That is a word right there.
Premier Gospel.